Hello everyone, welcome back to Maine Tiny Homestead. And today we have to go in the garden and get some things fixed because all of the tomatoes fell over last night and some of them broke and some of them just bent in half, but we have a lot of work to try to put them back together and see if we can salvage anything that's left. So let's get in there and check it out. So for those of you that remember, I have 2 cherry tomato plants in here. I know it looks like it's a lot more, but it's only 2 plants. One was on each side of the bed here. And when I stood inside of this raised bed, these plants were like 2 feet over my head. So that's not saying much because I'm only 5'2", so they were at least 7 to 8 feet tall. And I had to clip the top so they would stop growing any taller. And then I was staking them to each other, like tying the vines to each other. So the last couple of weeks, what's been happening is they've been gradually falling to the right. To the left here. So as you can see, it's all like bunched up over here. And let me see if I can come in here and show you what's happened. And you can see where it broke. So see that break right there? So all of them broke about that size. So this is what happens when you don't stake your tomatoes properly. I did not realize these cherry tomatoes were going to get this big. So I only had these little green stakes in. And I had 1 or 2 for each of the plants. So as they started to grow and then get really tall over the stakes, I realized that wasn't enough. So I have a couple of wooden stakes in there too, and then 2 or 3 more of these thin green ones that are in there. But apparently still not enough when all of this was bearing fruit. Now these plants are loaded with fruit. And it's all still green, as you can see. A lot of it I've taken off. Whatever was okay this morning. These are sun gold cherry tomatoes, so whatever was orange this morning, I took off because that's when this fell over this morning. And what I did to try to hold it up is I have my hoops from my blueberry bed, and I've just put one in here. So let me show you what I've done with that to try to help this, because I'm not sure if it's going to make it or not, so we'll have to wait and see. But so I put the hoop in here, and then all I did was tie a string here, and then I put, if you can see right here, I screwed a nail in right there, and then I just tied the twine off to it to give it some stability and hold it backwards, because everything was falling forward, and this side is really the worst of it all. Everything was falling towards us this way. So I added this new stake, tied this off, have the twine going across to the other side of the hoop, and I've also tied that stake off over here to another nail. So that's kind of how we have it now. I'm hoping it's going to hold it for the duration of it. I'm not sure what else to do. I don't really have a lot of other stakes to choose from here. I'm using everything I have, and at this point in the season, I don't want to spend any money to get anything else. So that's what I've done, is I've just put this blueberry hoop in there for now to try to hold it back, and hopefully the fruit will survive. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. Since this just happened today, I'll have to check it out and see how it does during the day and overnight. See what starts to wilt, if it's really all broken. And then I'll lose those fruit vines, or if they're just bent, and they may still have at it and grow upside down. Like, look at this one. That one's totally upside down now. A bunch of them are upside down. And I have to get my hand up and inside because there's a bunch on the inside too. So that's the situation we're in with the tomatoes. So my advice stake your tomato plants more than you think you need, because once they start bearing fruit, they're way heavier and need way more support than you think they ever would. I mean, this is just a mangled mess. As you can see now, everything is just bent in half. So these bent, it looks like at the 4-foot mark, and broke all in half just overnight. And we didn't even have a storm. They've survived plenty of storms this spring and summer. But they just fell over from the weight yesterday. But while we're here, I'll tell you what's going on with the rest of the garden. So this is where the garlic used to be. So I've harvested the garlic, and you can check out and see that video if you'd like to see how we do that here. But what I did is I planted some arugula and some lettuce in here, and it only looks like the arugula is coming up. So I have 2 rows of that popping right up. When I pulled this out a couple of weeks ago, in order to plant something back here, since our frost comes pretty early here in Naples, Maine, I'm in zone 4. I only wanted to make sure everything that I was going to plant was under 60 days as far as a harvest to maturity date. So that's what we were looking for, seed to maturity date under 60 days, and both these lettuces were 55 days. So, and especially for arugula, they like the cooler weather anyways, so that should go fairly well. So if we go to this side of the bed, you can see I have my 1 eggplant plant. This is a fairy tale eggplant. And you can see the little baby ones. They're only about 4 inches long, 4 to 5 inches long, and then you want to harvest them. I've gotten quite a few off of them. And one thing just to point out, I've got stabbed a couple of times, but see these right here? I don't know if you can see it, but they got little spikes that come out of it. And boy, it's like a thorn on a rose bush. Probably to keep the predators away. I mean, got me good. Here's my little tomato plant that I planted as my fall tomatoes. And then these potatoes are just crazy as well. They just keep growing and growing. So we'll see when that season should be over. And then let's see how I got onions on this side. They don't look to be doing that great. I don't think I'm going to have much success with the onions because I started from the sets instead of seed. So I will do from seed next year. But yeah, so look at all of it on this side, how they're all upside down as well. So this is just really a mangled mess is just the best way to describe this. These 2 tomato plants now. Lesson learned there. I have to really do a much better job at staking. I didn't want to put a cage in there because I thought it was going to take up too much room. In hindsight, it needs more than just a little cage. It should have had some wooden stakes built all around it. So next year, definitely we'll need to do something much different than this, because this is just didn't work out, as you can see. But let me show you how much. So this morning, I'll show you. All of these are the ones that I took off this morning. So it took off some weight. Anything that had any color on it, I took off so that I can ripen those in the windowsill. And then I also picked all of these little eggplants. So these are going to be great. This is the first time I'm growing this variety, so I'm excited to try these. These are so tender, you don't even have to do anything to prep them. Like with the Black Beauty eggplants that we're used to seeing, you really can't eat the skin on those. You have to peel them, you have to salt them and get the bitterness out of them. These are really a sweet eggplant, and I'm looking forward to sauteing those up with these tomatoes later. So our blueberries did pretty good. We had a great harvest, but also big lessons learned in here. I had a grasshopper that got inside the netting and took a bite out of 12 blueberries. So that was very discouraging. I did find the the suspect and pulverized it once I did. But, you know, to my demise, he got me good and ate 12 blueberries. So need to build something permanent around this that's easy to manage, that is not this netting, because this is like my 4th year with netting, and my first real harvest where I got a lot of blueberries. I think we got maybe 100 blueberries this year off these 2 main bushes are the ones that produced this year. So that was pretty great for a harvest, but not fun with this net. So I got to find something else for next year to do with that. And then over here, we have our sunflower. I'll come around and get this angle of the sunflower. You can see it's in bloom now, which is pretty spectacular. And a couple of bugs eating the pollen. But I wanted to show you something that's kind of freaky if it happens on your sunflower. Look at this one. We have another little sunflower head growing right there. Can you believe it? That is pretty spectacular. So, pretty cool. That doesn't happen all the time. I've only seen that happen one other time. And can't wait for that one to see if that opens too. But the sunflower is looking great. Can't wait to have those seeds. And then I also want to show you how well the zinnias are doing. Look at these. This is just stunning. Just really stunning how well this came out. This was just the smallest little plant when I got it. And it has blossomed and blossomed and multiplied. And really all you have to do is once the heads start dying off, you just snap the heads off. You can see my little pile of them underneath there. See, they just die off and I just throw them to the base. But next year I'm going to close this whole bed in. I won't have flowers here. I'm going to have to probably plant the flowers somewhere else. It won't be in this bed. This is going to be an enclosed, dedicated blueberry bed for next year. So I'm going to be working on that in the fall, or as soon as really I get all the rest of the blueberries off this bush. There's about maybe 15 blueberries left that are not at a full color yet to be harvested. You can see there's a couple of green ones on there. So the thing about blueberries, unlike tomatoes, like if you had to pick all your green tomatoes now, you could, and then put them in a brown paper bag and then they will ripen. That does not happen with blueberries. Blueberries, you have to have them already have turned the color blue, and then they can get a little bit sweeter from their sour state, but they won't turn color. So if you picked a blueberry that was greenish, it will never turn blue. So those are not good to eat. You have to really have them ripen on the vine for blueberries. So now let's take a look at the herb bed and see what kind of state we're in for this one. So out front here we have a couple of buckets. I had some extra seeds and I popped some bean seeds in that one and onion sets in that one. This is our lemon balm and it's really doing awesome. We're going to be harvesting that this afternoon and starting to dry that on the dehydrator. The asparagus is getting huge. That's really getting big, as you can see. Pretty tall for year one asparagus. And then I did cut back all the chamomile. You can actually see some sun over here now, so that's very nice. That's helping out this tomato plant. The basils, the oregano, it's really opening it up to get all the sun back in there now that the chamomile season is over. And I'm actually going to come back through here and cut it even lower to the ground. Usually leave only about 2 inches. And this chamomile spreads and is prolific, so as it grows in the spring, I just pull up where I don't want it to go. So this year I let it get over to here. It'll probably want to move into here or go a little bit into here next year, and I'll just pull those pieces up as they start coming up so it won't go over there. So I'm trying to really cram a lot in this bed. Now this tomato plant is doing good. This is one of the, not sure what you call these, like a side shoot. See this right here? I had pulled one off of the other cherry tomatoes when it was, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches tall, and I just stuck it in there. Not even with a root on it. And it's got buds on it, right? Well, it doesn't have buds on it yet, but all the flowers are on it. So I'm hoping that those will get pollinated. And then we'll have a spring harvest of tomatoes. I'll have to build something around that so the weight of this one doesn't get as bad as the other ones. And then I have green beans in here. And then I have 3 kinds of basils over there, which is really getting tall. So let's talk about these morning glories. Look how ginormous they are now. They're so heavy, and I don't understand why they're not blooming yet. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with them, but they're off the charts. Really, really getting tall and taking over this arbor. And they're actually starting to block the afternoon sun on the bed that now I have arugula in. So hopefully the morning sun will be enough for that. So we'll see how that goes. But it's been another crazy week in the garden. As you can tell, when fruit starts to get heavy, you're not sure what's going to happen here. So luckily I had these hoops in here and I could save these tomato plants, and hopefully this does the trick with tying them off with the twine and holding it back, and maybe not much of it will die off. So that will be my hope. I hope you learned a thing watching this week's episode. Thanks for watching Maine Tiny Homestead.